We did it! Yay! Welcome, everybody. Welcome into the WPBA Owners Corner. I am Vera Jones, your host, and we are going to have another great show tonight because we got the big boss on with us today. She's not an athlete. Uh, she is the big boss. All right, Tamika Milburn. Milburn is a U.S. Air Force veteran. Thank you very much, by the way, for your service. She has her MBA from Anderson University. Her background is in both the federal and private sector in organizational development, human resources, policy writing, and implementation. The short version is she is the woman that makes the light go green all the time. She's the founder and CEO, commissioner of the Women's Professional Basketball Association. So, welcome aboard, Tamika. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
One of the first, I'm just going to go ahead and get the elephant out of the room, just in case someone else is thinking what I'm going to say. You don't look like you could have done all of those things. You easily look like you are just getting out of college, a recent graduate. I'm just going to say that. But I guess that I'm not right about that, correct?
You're absolutely incorrect about that. Like I told you, I just became a grandmother. I'm 45 years old.
That is unbelievable. Just a grandma just last week, right?
On Sunday or Monday, actually, just this past Monday. Mm-hmm.
That's right. So now we can tell everyone last week you were going to do the inaugural show. We were going to have me in, our CEO and commissioner. But she was being grandma. You were bedside at the hospital as your first. Is this your first grandchild?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, first grandchild that was born. So congratulations on that. You are now giving birth of your own to a huge project with the WPBA. What on earth got into you that made you say, "I am going to step out there and just launch a women's professional basketball league"? What was the impetus and the thought behind that?
Well, it took a lot. It took 2 years of owning a team in another league and not seeing the results, not from my team, but not seeing the results from just the leagues and the other team owners. And because of the reason that I went into doing this, which was really because I wanted to be able to put pro athletes around the girls in the program that I have. We have girls that I used to work with, that actually I still work with them, but I used to train. I used to be a personal trainer, and who have the desire to play pro basketball, and just seeing the outcome and meeting a lot of former WNBA players and not seeing that connection from high school to college to the pros that kind of left some of these WNBA players and even some of the NBA players I've met just kind of out there and stranded once that ball stopped bouncing. So I put a team together in Atlanta, really to put something to put women together who were interested in not just playing at a very high level, but also being actively involved in the community year round. So I had a team in Atlanta, and then I had a team in Philly, and just, I wanted a certain level of professionalism for my teams. I wanted a certain level of competition. And it's a business. We want to be able to make money. We want to be able to make a profit. And the other league we were in was actually costing me a lot of money. So I wanted to be able to, I said, if I'm going to mess something up, I'll mess something up that I start. I'm not going to let someone else mess it up for me, So right. I'm like, we had to do something that was going to be stronger, that was going to be sustainable, that's going to be profitable, because we obviously want to be able to attract really high level talent, and that's going to make an impact, that's going to have a true impact on our communities year round.
So let me go backwards just a little bit, because what amazed me about you when we first met, and we were just talking in the green room, is your background isn't in sports at all. Is that right?
That's correct. I've never played a sport in my life.
Oh my goodness. And that's what I think is most amazing, is that, you think about people who get into the front office of the line of sports, have either played the sports, had a passion for the sports. Someone was in their family. My dad was a coach, or there's something there. And you were sharing with me somewhat of a disconnect when it comes to sports overall. So you're not even a huge basketball. You didn't get the basketball bug to bite you, the business bug fit
It
you.
was
Is
really
that
more
right?
it was really more something that I wanted to do for young girls. So it was the girls. That's where my passion is kids. And this is
Okay.
something that, we can this is something that we can do to help develop young girls. We know, by the ages, and this I'm throw out some statistics, okay? So by the age of 9, 10 years old, little girls start losing their self-esteem, which is really sad. When you look at like an 8-year-old who's all bubbly, by the time she's 10, you can see her self-esteem start to decline. That's a fact. We know that sports helps improve girls' self-esteem. We know that sports help keep girls in school. We know that 80%, I think it's 80% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies play sports in either high school or college. So we want to be able to not just push them out there and say play the sport, but also help develop them as little girls and as young women through sports. And that's what my passion is.
I love it. And I feel that passion coming through the screen. That's just simply awesome. And then to be a role model of sorts, to step out on faith, to say no fear, to step into an industry that you're not fully confident in. How do you survive in that? And not just survive, how do you go on to thrive? My guess is you surround yourself with the right people.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is I have to put and unfortunately, I had the, privilege of meeting a lot of former pro athletes and even some current athletes, and then people who have been in the industry for a long time. And I don't have to know how to play basketball. I don't have to know how to draw plays. I have to put people in place who do, I have to figure out how to do this business and make it work. And how to, make sure that my vision and my mission is being met through not just on the court, but off the court in the community and with our kids as well. I don't have to know how to play the sport.
So you weren't the raggedy tomboy running around behind her brothers like I was, right? And it
I
just
was
kind
a
of
raggedy tomboy, but I didn't have brothers. I have all sisters.
Okay. Well, that is exactly how I was 5 years old. That's how I got into sports. Is just with my brother and cousins and
yeah, I was
yeah. And but you did. Let me ask you this: what was your passion? What was your little girl? Because I knew mine, believe it or not, was I was going to be the Magic Johnson of the, I was going to be the first woman in the NBA. They hear me tell it at age 7 or 8, right? What was your dream? What was your passion then as a young girl?
So I used to want to be a construction worker like Fred Flintstone because they didn't have women out there on those dinosaurs. And I was like, why don't they have women out there? I'm like, I want to be the first woman to go out there and ride a dinosaur and move boulders around. So that's what I wanted to do when I was in like first grade. I wrote it down in my little journal and everything.
I love it. Why aren't any women? Why can't, what was it? Wilma and Betty. They don't have a dinosaur.
Yeah. I want to be a dinosaur moving boulders too. So
I love it. That is hilarious. But look what you've done. You really are kind of riding your own dinosaur, and then you've been your period. And now currently, or you just left government industry, or what has your resume look like there?
So after I realized that, I couldn't be a construction worker like Fred. Well, I could be a construction worker, but I couldn't ride the dinosaurs. I actually, my goal after that was to join the military.
Okay, that's close.
Almost. So I've known since I was a little girl that I wanted to go into the Air Force, and that's what I did. I graduated high school. I went into the Air Force. I spent 7 years in the Air Force. I got sick and I had to get out on a medical discharge, which was, at that time was the most devastating thing in the world to me because I didn't know anything outside. That was my first real job. So, and I planned on retiring, but it made me, I learned a lot. And actually, it's kind of funny because I tell pro athletes, like I haven't played, but I can relate to their story, and basketball is all you know. And then when you're done, it's like, what now? And I had to surround myself with people in the private sector, people who had gotten out of the military to kind of figure out how to navigate the real world. That's what I call it, because it's not, once you leave something like that, it really is it's a shock. So, after getting out of the Air Force, I went kind of I went to school clearly. And then I went into the federal government, and worked HR, did organizational development, policy writing, staffing, all types of things like that.
Did you kind of get the bug then while you were working the military to start thinking, and even then you weren't necessarily thinking of becoming an entrepreneur?
No, I know I wanted to work with kids. So I've always wanted to work with kids. Like, I always have kids in my house that, who don't belong to me, but I always wanted to be around. Kids make you young. They make you feel young. And then you just watching them grow and develop. It's just an amazing experience. So I started off, like, I wanted to figure out how can I get kids. And I realized that, being a social worker, number one, they don't make a lot of money. And number two, it's just something that you have to have a heart for. You have to have a very strong stomach for. So I became a foster parent first, to, just because I wanted to help kids. Didn't really like the way the system works with the foster kids. So I was like, I didn't want to do that. When I moved to Atlanta, I started a nonprofit organization called Atlanta's Young Misses. So where we have young girls, we start them as young as third grade, figure out what it is they want to do, whether it's sports, if they want to play an instrument, whatever it is they want to do, we hone in on what it is they're interested in and keep them involved in that, and then keep them all the way until they graduate high school. And then even in college, I still have college girls that that are still involved with what we're doing. And so it wasn't just like, okay, I want to start a team or I want to get into sports. I wanted to find something that little girls could relate to, and we can, like I said, help develop them through that. But I know I've always wanted to work with kids, especially young girls. Like, I have sisters and I have 3 daughters and now a granddaughter. So it's like I've always wanted to work with young girls.
Wow. So we were talking with Khalid Wilson last week, and just talking about how this is a community-centric league. Like, one of the things that a lot of people go, oh, is it like the WNBA? And so there are some things that are sure the same, but there are definitely some things that are different in terms of just how active you want to be in the community. It sounds like, just in listening to you, that really is your passion, is to put things back into the community to get kids involved. How will that help you, though, in terms of growing the WPBA?
One of the things that it does, it's really year-round marketing. And I think that's one of the things that women's sports is missing, is that year-round marketing. Like, we're out there and we're in the community. We're doing, whether it's, during our season or after our season, or, just even this off season, where it helps us with year-round marketing, and it helps people who are not interested in basketball learn who we are. I always tell my folks, you have to be able to sell a season ticket to someone like me. I have daughters. What am I going to do with my daughters on a Saturday? I'm not a basketball fan. How are you going to get me to a game? And a lot of that has to do with, you have to appeal to my daughter. My daughter has to like you. My daughter has to say, Mom, I want to go see, I'm going to use Megan Simmons because that's who my daughter loves. I want to go and she played for the Atlanta team in the first season. She's like, I want to go see Megan Simmons, not because she likes basketball, but because Megan Simmons did a career day at her school and she likes Megan Simmons. Wow. So we have to be able to not just sell women's basketball, but just, make people want to just be around us and just spend time with our teams, with our players, with the owners, with the coaches, and make sure that our environment during our games is something that everyone can relate to.
That's one of the things that, having been around women's basketball for so long, that we would often hear, in men's sports, a lot of times there are these untouchables, these mega superstars, these, and they're untouchable. And this isn't a criticism. Right. It's a big sport. There are a lot of demands, and not everyone can reach out and touch everybody. Right. But there's a different sense of humility, I guess, coming up as a woman in the game, that you don't see yourself on that same level. You don't even, until the WNBA came along, I don't think women, we ever really saw ourselves. And so there was a connection to the community, a connection to the fans, that really became part of the grassroots development of who we are in sport anyway. We are a little more touchable. Right. But now, yes, we have our own mega superstars. And but I think that's one thing that women do well. And maybe it's the nurturing thing. I don't know. But we just seem to be community oriented, family focused. Those are kinds of things that have actually helped the sport survive. You're absolutely right. Right. So take me back a little bit more, if you would, so we can really get to know the Tamika Milburn. So we know that you wanted to be in construction and ride dinosaurs. Right. Yeah, we know that. What was your first, I guess, entry into business? I mean, you have your MBA, and obviously you've gone into the military, and now you have a background in organizational management, all of that. But what was the first catalyst that put you there?
So when I moved to Atlanta, I actually opened a gym, do training, to do sports performance training. I had a couple of former WPBA players who worked for me, and they did sports specific training. And that was pretty much it. We did that, and we had a ton of girls in there. We had programs specific to girls where we helped with education issues, things like that. And that was pretty much it. That was my introduction to the industry. And it actually helped me to learn, like I said before, there was a need for programs and for more community-based pro organizations, in women's sports and women's basketball, really women's sports, girls sports, period. And that was pretty much it. I had the gym, I think 3 or 4 years. And then, like I said, I was a personal trainer. I did sports performance training. I got into a horrible car accident, had to have screws put in my neck, and I wasn't able to train anymore. So I'm like, okay, which really it was a blessing, because I spent so much time on the court and in the gym with the kids, with the girls. I didn't really focus a lot on the business, and that's really where my strong suit was. It was the business side. It's not really the communication with like the parents and things. It's really watching the development programs for the kids and then building the business. So it kind of helped me to kind of figure out where I needed to be in this industry, because I couldn't train anymore. So we closed the gym, and then I focused on developing programs specifically for the girls, and that's how the pro teams came about.
So as I'm looking across the board, I have my little cheat sheet here, and I'm actually looking at your organization, and we were talking about surrounding yourself with the right people. Was this kind of a hand-picked selection? And I think this is important too. It's an important question because even I, as an entrepreneur, launching a lot of new things right now because of COVID, I think about how the best thing I did was finally, after years of just like obviously pulling my hair out because I don't have any left now, of realizing your support team is everything. And I should know this from having played sport. If you got a strong starting five, or if you've got a good supporting cast, sometimes you feel like you can do almost anything. And that has helped me. Talk about a little bit for budding entrepreneurs out there. Talk about the support team. Talk about how you were able to kind of pull this thing together.
And I'm going to be very honest. That's very difficult for me to have a support team because I'm used to doing everything by myself. Even when we had the gym, it was mostly me, and I'm used to, and I'm the oldest of all of my sisters. So I'm used to
so that's where it came from.
Yeah. So I'm used to doing everything on my own. I'm used to doing the budget, doing the marketing, making sure, and then kind of not really micromanaging, but just taking care of things on my own. If I ask someone to do something, it doesn't get done in a time, the way I'm used to doing it myself. So even for me, it's still very, and it's difficult for me because, I like to stay to myself and just work. I like to work. I'm not really social. So, but
you're the driver. You're the driver. I got you. Okay.
For me, even now, it's still difficult for me to have a support team, even though they're great. They're great, and they've actually, they have to hit me over the head sometimes and say, we're here, don't forget us, because I do tend to just kind of zone out into my own world. But that you definitely need that. You need people, and I have to know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I need people who can come in and, and I'll use Khalid since you spoke with her last week. Khalid is she's the sweetest person ever. She's bubbly. She talks to everyone. So she's really, when I say I need someone to go out and make friends, that's Khalid, because it's not really, so,
gotta have it.
Yeah. So I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, and you have to have a team of people who can kind of pick up where that you can't fulfill that role. And I do. I think we have a great staff. Rita, Khalid, Anicia, and they all, they know the industry. They know their roles. They know, they also know what they need to do for me to kind of, like I said, get me out of my shell and make me do what I don't want to do most of the time.
Right now, you have teams, the Atlanta Monarchs. You have a team in Richmond, the Richmond Roadrunners, Georgia Soul, a second team in Atlanta, or in Georgia, Greensboro Chaos. You have the Tennessee Conductors, Philadelphia Rain, Mississippi Eagles, and the Carolina Upstate Thunder. How do you decide who gets into the league? Are there specific standards, or right now are you just open to, all right, put in a proposal? How does that even work?
We actually have an application process, and we do have standards. We have financial standards that they have to meet. Like I said before, when we were in the other league, there were really no standards. You pay a fee and you got in the league. And that's not what we're doing. We have requirements on where you play, the type of facilities you have. We want to make sure that everyone has a VIP section, on-court seating, that it's a professional atmosphere. And again, financial requirements. And we work with our owners closely. Anicia, right? She works very closely with the owners. So we need them to have a business sense, not just the basketball sense. In other leagues that we've played in, it's everybody wants to play, but it's more to owning a team than just playing. So we don't allow coaches to own because their job is to coach. We want owners who understand business, and if they don't really understand that everything in business are open to learning. So that we can teach them. And that's pretty much it. You have to have the financial backing, but you also have to have that business mindset to where that business and that community mindset where you can blend those two and be successful in your market.
And what about the players? Like, can I come out of retirement at 54? Can I be down? Like, how does that work? Like,
I mean, you could.
Trust me, you do not want that. No one wants. It would frighten the little kids that you're trying so hard to help. So, but what about the players? How are you recruiting them? Do individual teams? Is there a draft? How does that work?
So we're working on putting together a draft or a combine for the league. Individual teams do host their tryouts. We do have requirements for players because we want high level play. The teams that I've had, the majority of our players, were former WNBA players, and that's the level we're looking for. We're watching the WNBA transactions list. So we know if someone doesn't make a team and they're from South Carolina or has a South Carolina connection, we're going to reach out to them because they already have a fan base there. So that's going to help that team. We're looking for players who are from the areas in which we're playing, that have played at a higher level, and that can come in and give good competition. We don't want, in the leagues we played in, the teams that I owned were blowing teams out 40, 50 points a game. And that's not what we want. We want good competition. Sure. We want a fun environment, and we want players who understand our mission and are willing to go out there after a game and talk to kids and take pictures with kids. We have a girl in Philadelphia. Her name is Brittany Harenko. Last year, after every game, I promise she spent about an hour taking pictures and just talking to kids. And those are the kind of, she can play. She plays for the Globetrotters now. She's drafted to the WNBA. But she's a great player, phenomenal player. But she had no problem with just spending time after the game with kids. And those are the kind of players we want. They need to have the talent, but they also need to be able to want to give back to this, not just the community, but to this sport,
You have to focus on, literally we're 6 months away from May. The league tips off in May. I know that was supposed to start, for those people that are tuning in that don't know. Obviously, COVID was a setback. You all have felt some of the pain that many of us have felt across the nation because of COVID-19. But you're looking, we're all prayerful that 6 months, possibly, you'll be able to kick off play. So you've got to be thinking about that. I know there's a lot going on in the background there, but you also have to be able to project 5 years out to, what does expansion look like? Are you, is it fair to say right now you're all on the Southeast pretty much? I failed geography. Yep. All in the Southeast. Will you expand to, can Houston or Dallas get a team? Can somebody in LA? Because now you've got financials in terms of the travel and all of that. Where are you going?
We actually are looking for 2020, it was 2021, but now 2022 to go into the Midwest. We're looking at adding teams in Canada and even in Mexico, and continue to go out to the West Coast. Now, I want to be very clear about that. We want to go in the markets where we're going to be successful. So we're not going to just add teams everywhere, but we want to go in the markets that we know can be successful. But definitely in 2022, go out to the Midwest, add the Canadian teams, and then further out, 3 to 5 years, start adding teams on the West Coast. And my goal is not to have a 30 team. My goal is to have, up to maybe 20 at the most, but to have quality teams. I'm not worried about quantity. I'm worried about quality. Like I said, we want to be in markets that the teams can be successful and that the teams will be able to grow and sustain themselves. So we don't have to have a lot of teams. We have to have really strong teams that can work.
So the big question now, of course, is people going, well, what about the NBA? Aren't you, bumping heads with them? Your season runs along the same, what's different? Why would I tune in? How do you handle that question?
The WNBA or the NBA?
I'm sorry, the WNBA. Did I say NBA?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we set the clock back, and I usually go to bed at 8. I'm all messed up. Yeah, I go to bed early.
Well, the thing is that we're not trying to be competition with the WNBA. Most our games are primarily played right now on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, and we are, we look at the schedule, the WNBA schedule, to make sure right now we don't have, most of our teams don't have WNBA teams in our cities. I think Atlanta is the only one actually.
Atlanta, right?
So we make sure that we're not competing with the dream as far as when we're playing, because we don't want to be competition. We don't want to take from them to add to us. We want to all work together, So right now, that's not really an issue as far as in the city. Now, like you said, tuning in may be different, but we do try to kind of work around their schedule. And it does help because they play during the week and on the weekends, but we play primarily on the weekends.
When will we see scheduling, and what does marketing look like so that you start putting this word out and creating that whole excitement around the launch of the league?
So the schedule should be complete. Actually, it will be by mid-January, no later than the end of January. We'll start putting that out. This right here is a part of our marketing. So we'll start ramping up the marketing within the next month or so. It helps us with the holidays because then we're out there in the community more often. We're more visible. We just finished our Heart of a Champion series, which helped us to just kind of gain some traction and kind of get fans who didn't know who we were, and then also fans who weren't a part of the basketball world. I mean, we'll continue to do things like that. Like, our online presence will continue to stay as strong as we can make it. And then as soon as, the world starts to open, we'll be out there in the communities and, we'll have we're looking to hopefully host a launch party in April. We'll be,
launch party. All I heard was party. Right? I'm coming.
And then obviously hopefully we can be at the Final Four, depending on, what COVID throws at us.
Right.
And be able to market ourselves out there. We'll also recruit from those combines out there as well.
Awesome.
So, we have a couple of things that we're looking to do. Like I said, I mentioned having our own combine. We're also looking to do kids camps. We're working now to put together kids camps in a couple of our cities in the spring as well.
So I'm looking on here and I'm realizing today on LinkedIn, by the way, those of you that are joining us on Facebook, we have a few minutes left. If you want to throw some questions into the chat, please do that. I believe we also have some people that are tuning in out on YouTube. Yes, we have some YouTube folks. But one of the folks, I just caught a glimpse over here as I'm looking at my questions. So I'm on LinkedIn today and I get a message about from a gentleman named David who wants his basketball company. He's got a brand new company, so he's new, and he wants his basketball to be the basketball, the WPBA. You're going to start to get more and more people that might want to sponsor your shoes and your jerseys and your basketballs and your, I don't know, your hair or whatever else. What is the best way that people that are listening and that are out there and spreading the word that they can get involved with the WPBA? What do you recommend?
It's really easy. We've had a lot of people send messages on social media, Facebook, Instagram. They can also go to the website. Our contact information is on the website. They can send us emails, call, and social media has really been good for us as far as people reaching out. We actually do respond, so if someone is interested, or like I said, they can go to the website, the WPBA.com.
The WPBA,
or email the WPBA admin at the WPBA.com.
Okay. The WPBA admin
ADMIN
at the WPBA.com. All right. You hear that, David? If you're still on here, I'm just giving him a little self-plug, David, 24/7. All right. So I can get a free basketball out of it. Right.
Right.
So that's awesome. So as people start to get involved, and we're here on our final 30 seconds. Just any thoughts from you, basically, in terms of, what you want the viewers, the listeners, anybody that's interested, what do you want them to know before we go?
Number one, like I said, we do play at the same time as the WNBA, but we want to add value. We want to add to women's sports. We want to add to girls' sports. We want to be an opportunity for women who, there's 144 spots in the WNBA. There's more women out there who can play at that level.
Absolutely.
So we want to be an opportunity for those women, and we want to be able to provide opportunities for kids in the community. We want to be able to give internship opportunities to young kids, high school kids, college kids, things like that. This is more than basketball, obviously, because like we've mentioned, I'm not not a true basketball fan, or I wasn't. This is outside of basketball. This is the community. This is about the kids. This is about economic development in the community, economic growth, you know, in each of our communities. And it's like I said, it's really simple to get involved. Just reach out.
All right, I love it. You have been a great young-looking guest.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta stop doing that. No way in the world anybody's calling you grandma. And your kids,
Yeah.
You have a 24-year-old, a 21-year-old,
And a 12-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, keep up the great work. You talk about being mentors and role models. You're an awesome role model for your kids. You're an awesome role model for me. Give me some praise so I can look younger or something, right? But thank you. What you're doing is just terrific. And I think you're blazing a path that a lot of people are going to look up to. And so get involved if you're out there and you're watching and you love women's sports. And even if you don't, get your kids involved with the Women's Professional Basketball Association. We'll be back next week. I'm Vera Jones. That's Tamika Milburn. We're out.
Thank you. We did.